Yep, we're good now.
Good evening. I would like to welcome you to the Thursday, June 12th, 2025 meeting of the Bellingham Planning Board. Before we start the official agenda, I should let you know that we've had two projects request a continuation.
Three projects.
These projects
Yep,
recently.
correct. So you want the update on those?
Please, there.
So the first public hearing, Prospect Hill Village, they are requesting a continuance to July 17th. 190, 194, 198 Hartford Ave, that they are also requesting a continuance to July 17th. And the last one, the second Hartford Ave project, 182, 186 Hartford Ave, are also requesting a continuance to July 17th. And just a note for if any neighbors or abutters are watching from ABMI, if they're a direct abutter who received a notification initially, they'll be receiving another notification. The applicants for both Prospect Village and the Hartford Ave communities are going to be doing the re-notification process to get our new member, Marty, who's here, first time, up to speed to be a voting member of the voting quorum. So with that, I don't know if you want to make the motions to continue now or wait till
I
after.
think we wait that.
That's fine. So,
So it's my great pleasure to, under general business, we need to do reorganization. We need a chairman, a vice chairman, and a secretary. I would recommend Phil Devine to be chair.
Second.
Any other names? Any discussion? I would call for the vote, starting in my right-hand side.
Steve, I.
Bill, I.
Bill, I,
Marty, I.
that motion passes unanimously. Congratulations.
congratulations, Bill.
Thank you.
Hand him the gavel.
You're out, huh?
Yes.
Let's hammer him.
All right, so we'll continue with the nomination of the vice chair, and I'm gonna nominate, make a motion to nominate Bill O'Connell as the vice chair. And because of the experience level that he has and with the number of newer people, Marty, I'm gonna make that motion, and I'll be looking for a second. There's a second.
Second.
Okay. Then I'll call the vote, starting with Marty.
Marty, I.
Bill, I,
Bill, I.
Steve, I.
Okay, that motion passes unanimous. And the third position that we need to nominate is for secretary slash clerk. And one I've actually held several, at least 4 times in the last several years. And I'm gonna make the nomination that for Liz Bartholet, and I've spoken to her, and she did say that she'd be interested in that position. So if there's a second for that position.
I'll second.
Second?
Yeah.
Okay. So we've got a nomination, a second, and we'll start with the vote. And Steve?
Steve, I.
Bill, I.
Bill, I,
Marty, I.
Okay, and that's 4-0, and we'll pick that as done. So we're reorganized. All right, moving on to general business. Rob, what's your recommendation? Do you want to clear the continuances first?
Sure, why don't we do that? So Prospect Village, they're continuing, or they're requesting a continuance to July 17th with the deadline extension to August 31st.
Okay, do I have a motion?
you have a motion?
Okay, can I have a second, please?
Second.
Second by Marty. Okay, any discussion? Okay, then I'll call for the votes.
Steve, I.
Bill, I.
Bill, I,
Marty, I.
Okay, so that continuance is approved at this point to July 17th. And we've got the decision deadline in writing already?
Yep, we
Okay.
do.
What was the date on that?
The decision deadline?
Yeah.
August 31st.
All right, so we'll skip over the 123 Mendon Street, just for a second here. Appreciate your indulgence in the crowd. Let's go to, the continuance for the public hearing on 199, 194, and 198 Hartford. I understand they're looking for a continuance.
Yep, they are requesting a continuance to July 17th with a deadline extension to August 31st.
And are they keeping in line with the other one as well?
Correct. Yep.
Okay, with the decision deadline too?
Yep, exactly.
All right, then, I'll entertain a motion to accept the continuance request to, July 17th.
So moved.
You have a second, please?
Second.
Second by, Marty. I think I heard Marty first.
That's fine.
So at this point, we've had a, motion, a second, and we'll take the vote now.
Mr. Chair,
Yes,
do we need, since it's two separate items, do we need two separate motions?
I would do two separate this one will be for 190, 194, and 198 Hartford Ave, and then we'll do a separate one for 182 and 186.
we don't need to open it up because
Nope.
we're just continuing.
Just continuing, so.
All right, so this is, again, we've got a motion, we've got a second. This is for the 190, 194, and 198 Hartford. And I'll call for the vote.
Steve, I.
Bill, aye?
Bill, aye.
Marty, I.
Okay, and that's unanimous at 4-0 tonight. And we'll move on to the next one, which is the continued public hearing of 182 and 189 Hartford Avenue.
86.
186, thank you.
And that's-
At this point, I think we've discussed that they're looking for a continuance to July 17th with the decision deadline being the August 31st.
Correct.
Right.
Yep.
Anything else we need to know, Rob?
No, I mean, I don't want to give, I mean, we're continuing
We're
it. so I can't
continuing,
give-
so we're good to go.
Yep, you're good to go.
All right, then I'll actually, do we have a motion to, has it been seconded? I'm gonna make a motion. Can we have a second, please?
I'll second.
Second by Bill. And I'll call for a vote.
Steve, I.
Bill, aye?
Bill, aye.
Marty, I.
And that passes 4-0. All right, let's move on to our regular agenda here. If we could have the applicants for 123 Mendon Street join us. And Rob, you want to get us up to speed? This is not a new public hearing. Do we need to open this, or is this a new meeting, or how do we, where do we stand?
This is a continued public hearing, so it's been a little while since Bill, Steve, and Mark have been in. I know there was a little bit of a snag with peer review and responses to peer review, but they did go through the initial peer review and came back with a pretty good letter, clean-ish. There were a few concerns with it, which the applicant has made some revisions to the plans and responded to the peer review. It's back with the peer review consultant. And rather than wait until the final letter was complete, I think it would make a lot of sense to have the applicant in, because there were a few items that we're a little early on talking about it, but it's going to affect what the final deliverables are for the planning board to make the decision. And that is regarding a few, I don't even want to call them waiver requests. It's more of conditions of approval, which I can get to maybe once the applicant can just give an update on where things stand with the plans, any changes.
Would you like to go over your changes and what you're requesting to?
Sure. Is the board okay? Everybody can see it? All right, my name is Stephen Bosvich, here on behalf of the applicant. Since our last meeting, CMG released a letter, as Rob mentioned, and overall, not too many things, but there are a few alterations that need to be made. I believe we provided a letter, kind of commentary for those, listing each individual one. I won't go through all of them, but some of the more pertinent ones are included on sheet C12. The addendum sheet, some of the things they asked for was bike rack. We were required to provide a bike rack, so we put that at the front of the building at the main entrance. The single unit 30 turning template, We previously had a fire truck access turning template provided. They wanted to verify that the dumpster removal truck could also maneuver, so we provided that on 12. And as well as the tree planting and handicap grade sign, so we provided those details. The other amendments that were included were in regards to a more detailed landscape plan. So that is included on sheet. See, I believe it is 5. Fire. Then sheet C4. So originally we just had some kind of landscape beds identified. We needed a little more detail. So we provided a schedule of what's required for the regulation planning board. And kind of the spec on how to plant, what size caliper they need to be and everything. So we provided 2 interior trees here, and then 4 along the basically easement. One of them on top of the wall at the edge of the parking lot to provide some shade for the parking lot. We're also addition, which hasn't changed, providing sideline plantings along that there arborvitae's. We did have an outstanding comment from DEP. They wanted some replication, so we also provided in this area where there was degraded pavement, gravel, compact. We're gonna rip that up and put this conservation seed mix down. A few other items regarding ADA compliance, those were included, I believe, on sheet C3. One of the comments as noted was signage for the ADA compliant spaces, so we provided 2 sign post mounted at the face, at the head of the parking spaces, as well as on sheet C3, additional grading spot labels so they can verify ADA compliance. The other amendments were geared towards the stormwater report. They included really the operation and maintenance schedule and plan, and we added the details per their recommendation and updated the report and provided it to the town planner. If there are any additional questions or details in the letter you'd like me to address, I'd be happy to answer them.
Can you explain a little bit more about your location? Where's your nearest abutter?
I believe the nearest abutter is gonna be on the west property line. There's a driveway when you go to the existing conditions plan. So there's kind of an existing kind of shared entrance over here. And it goes back to a house, I believe it's built and confirmed,
Way back by Box Pond,
yeah.
Okay,
the residence. And the other residence is on the other side of the wetland going west. It's a pretty good distance.
so they're,
They probably
They're not-
can't see
they're not
this from
close.
there.
okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
Okay, so this is in front of, got the responses from their peer review sent to our peer review just recently.
Yep.
We're expecting that back in a couple weeks.
Yeah, I fully anticipate having a letter back for the July 17th meeting.
Sounded like there were a couple questionable things you were looking for inputs on.
Yeah, so if you wouldn't mind, in their response, they laid out everything, I thought, very well as far as where to go to find the answers to some of the questions that the peer reviewer had. And we did discuss previous to the resubmission, just the best approach for some of the items that are outlined. There's a couple that are, I don't want to call them major, it's major at this point, and one of them is, this is a Mass DOT jurisdictional roadway, and with that, there's permitting involved with an access permit. So the thing with Mass DOT that, so I should say, that was raised by the peer review consultant, that there will need to be a Mass DOT access permit. Mass DOT doesn't usually issue a permit until the local approvals are complete. So one of the recommended conditions of approval, rather than, no waiver, it's a condition of approval would be prior to construction that approval for the Mass DOT access permit is furnished. So that was one of the items.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
Does that include clearing trees and things like that, or is that a?
Yeah, you can typically, well,
Because we'd want you to have the permit that you can do this first.
The lot is clear right now. There's no,
It is clear.
yeah, there's no trees or anything like that.
So you're not clearing any, you wouldn't be doing too much disturbance other than that.
Oh, previously, where the work would be.
There's literally one tree on the property. It's over by the road. And I'm not gonna take it down, so. That's the
Okay.
only tree on the property.
so that's the first thing. Which doesn't hold up anything, it's actually so the second item is, there was a comment regarding the stormwater system, there's an underground system that's being proposed as part of this. And it's next to, one of the proposed retaining walls for the site. So the peer reviewer mentioned that just to make sure that the stormwater system's accounted for when the retaining wall gets designed. The retaining wall is over 4 feet in height, so it will require a structural engineer stamp. So as a condition of approval, and we've done this in the past for quite a few different projects, that prior to construction, they will furnish a structural design for that retaining wall. And then that way Tim can make sure that it accounts for any type of loading from that stormwater system. It will have an under drain too, like any retaining wall will have. So that one's pretty straightforward. The last two are the ones that I really want to bring to your attention to make sure that we're all on the same page.
So those first two, your recommendation is that we condition those.
Correct.
Okay.
Really, for these four, I would recommend conditioning them. So the third item is regarding the photometric plan. So they did not include a photometric plan, and part of that is because what will most likely happen is, since the parking is so close to the building, you're not really anticipating any light poles for your parking. It would most likely just be wall packs on the building, which are usually handled during the architectural design of the building. Usually the architect is going to spec out the lights and everything. Because there are no direct residential neighbors for this site, I would recommend that we condition the approval that the photometrics plan and lighting specs are furnished prior to construction. So it would be through the building permit side, as well as a copy sent to us, the planning board, planning department, to make sure there's no light spillover, and also to make sure that the fixtures are dark sky compliant. So that's that recommendation. The other one, the fourth item, is regarding the architectural plans themselves. Normally will require a floor plan and elevations. Once again, this is the business zone. They're proposing a 2-story office building that's quite small in size. You can require architectural elevations if you want, or I recommend, just to keep the process moving, and we know that there's not a lot of abutters directly adjacent, that you could always approve with a condition that the architectural elevations, which will be done during the building permit process, are also included to the planning board prior to construction. So
When you say included, do you mean approved by the planning board at that time, or do you mean just CC'd?
CC'd, and typically what'll happen is, when we've done this, is it's more of an administrative approval. So I'll take a look at it, and if there's concerns, then I give those comments to the building department during their building permit process. So then that way they can be addressed. So that's one way to do it, or you can request preliminary renderings if you want. I know part of the reason is, while we're waiting for the peer review consultant to be done, I didn't want to have the meeting, July 17th, or kind of, at the 1 yard line, and then all of a sudden, they could have worked to get any of this information that the board might want prior to making a decision. So
So my question would be, is based on the current plot plan and the building that's laid out. Are you considering altering the footprint based upon what's there now?
No. It's still, oh,
Okay,
picture there, no, I don't.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna change.
Yeah, we went through a couple different sizes, 1 floor, 2 floors, different lengths
Yep.
and widths, and this is what we felt was most efficient to provide the prescriptive requirements for site development plan review, as well as the applicant's need on the property.
Do you have, like a conceptual drawing of this? So you can see
At this
what the
time-
changes look like from real-time, street level type?
At this time, I do not, and
But yeah, I have, but it's, but I didn't add them into this, because it, the look of it might change, but it's,
Do you have any?
Two-story office
it's a
building.
two-story office building still, not changing what the footprint actually is.
Yeah, no, I'm just curious, because I understand all that, but it's nice to see what it actually looks like.
I would not mind a rendering, I'm fine with holding off on the architectural plans.
Well, typically we would require elevations and floor plans, and they're at a conceptual level, like a rendering, like any other,
Yeah.
so.
Do we have anybody from the audience that is in a butter or concerned with this project? Usually open things up. And knows, that's fine too. Okay. I think, all right, then, we'll bring it back to the board. So I don't think we've ever given, I don't remember not having a rendering of any type of bill. I mean, if this is what we're looking to approve, this is kind of something similar to what I, feel. I don't feel like we typically would give carte blanche without renderings and tying it to drawings. And I think we've run into some problems before with color schemes even.
We have.
So I mean, that's
Yeah.
one member's opinion on that, but I guess I'd like to hear the rest of the board's opinion.
I'm gonna agree with that, although I feel bad making them go through the process. We've not done this before, that I can recall.
And there's time for them to do it, so.
Okay. You,
I agree, I mean, I don't think we have to have it today, but I would like to see that so I can understand that in a different view, that's all.
I'm in agreement, as long as the footprint stays the same, but at least a street elevation showing what the building is going to look like in potential colors to be added depending upon the materials and that. I mean, if it's a brick building, brick is brick, but if it's any type of wood construction, siding and things of that, what kind of coloring and those considerations really should be put forth that we can say, yeah, because
Fair enough. Yeah, we could certainly get a base plan. I don't know about coloring yet, and probably something neutral, most likely.
conceptual, I think that's right what we're looking
Yeah, we
Lighter gray.
have plenty of examples of other filings where we can discuss.
Yeah,
to
they
show
have
kind of the
something.
level
I
of
think they may
detail.
have submitted something with the original submittal.
Okay, I don't,
But if not, I
Think
do have
so.
something at the office we can get you asked.
okay,
Okay.
So,
yeah, no, that's perfect.
so one question on the photometric plans and all that stuff.
Yeah.
So we're gonna condition, light poles on the property. So that it would strictly be lighting on the building, which would have to be dark sky compliant per the conditioning.
Yeah, even if we receive a photometrics plan during the filing, I mean, we always check to see if there's light spillover. We've had projects where there has been.
Yeah.
Very recently, we've had projects that have had a photometric plan with light spillover that they've had to revise, but we'll even condition it further that states. Dark sky compliant lighting, no spillover on property lines regardless.
No standalone lighting. is
Correct.
What we're hearing.
And we've had a project I know of that we did not, I'm trying to remember which one it was, but we did the same thing because it was a compressed footprint. Nowhere near any residential abutters, and we knew that there were gonna be wall packs on the building mounted lights. So,
Can we do you have the ability to pull up Google Earth just to see how close if I remember correctly, these weren't even close, but I don't want to do it from memory.
To the
Just
residential.
a resident,
Yeah.
your neighbors, and if, except if I remember correctly, there wasn't, but if we bring this up quickly, we can just.
And actually, while Rob's doing that, do you know what type of, this is gonna be an office building? Do you know what you're looking to put in there and how many separate offices there are?
Like 3 or 4. I'm gonna put my office in there, my business, and then, put it out there for other businesses to lease. So my office will probably occupy the second floor, and I might split up the first floor into 2. Or if somebody comes in and they want to lease the whole first floor, we'll go with that.
So the cover sheet, as far as the nearest neighbor, these are GIS lines and structures. This is a 300-foot radius around the property, so a 300-foot offset to that. We're outside of that 300, we're around 500, but that, again, that's GIS, but both are
Pretty close.
yeah.
This is also GIS, so,
I don't really need to say.
yeah, I would say so. So this is the property, right? Let me zoom in actually a little bit. So yeah, this
The
is,
other is a commercial, the
Yes,
old
big three.
HVAC.
Yeah.
So it's actually not even residential.
this is the utility easement, I believe. That's the gas easement,
That's the
the
gas.
overhead
Yeah,
line.
That's the overhead, so you're stuck in between those two things, so it's
So
little impact to.
this is probably the closest residence across the street, which is, let's see, like from the limited disturbance.
I think that's
That's
Over
over
there, yeah.
300 feet.
Yeah, that's a veterinary.
That's
clinic.
not so
Yeah, it's
busy.
on the
Never
property.
mind. So that's,
Okay, so that clarifies it, that clears up my head. Does any of the board members have any additional concerns or want to bring up anything?
I had asked earlier about the distances,
Yeah.
anticipating this. As long as road dash compliant, I'm fine.
Okay, and you don't want to put light poles anywhere except the building?
No, I think it'll be
That'll be
sufficient.
conditioned, you guys are okay with that?
Yeah.
It makes total sense with the parking layout too.
Okay, so Rob, how do we get this, I mean,
so you don't have to make any decision tonight with
Okay.
these. What we can do is, so I anticipate July 17th, we should have the peer review back. I anticipate that it'll be clean because pretty much it's a lot of stormwater related items. Fully anticipating that it'll be a clean letter.
okay,
With that,
just to be clear, we're talking about the first 3 items, which is the DOT permitting, the stormwater permitting, and the photometric being in the condition,
correct.
and we need a vote. Do we need to have, we've kind of weighed in, but do you want that on a record for a vote?
No, because what I'll do is, what I was going to recommend is, since it's back in with the peer reviewer, fully anticipate for the next, for the meeting of July 17th, it'll be, we'll have that finalized. What I can do is between now and July 17th, I will gladly draft a decision, and if we're ready, everything goes well, get the architectural back, and if you guys have any questions or comments at that meeting, you can make them, but you could fully anticipate potentially closing this out on July 17th. And if it has to be continued, it has to be continued, but I can at least get the decision crafted with including these conditions.
Okay, with the rendering being clean, with the condition that there's not gonna be questions on the renderings. There typically is though sometimes, but yeah.
Yeah.
Anybody, any concerns? from the
No.
board? No,
No, based on everything we've just discussed.
I think we need to word the motion afterward with those conditions.
yeah, or do
No,
we,
just
do we,
continue.
No,
Just continue to July
but
17th.
we would want the meeting minutes to reflect the board's feeling on those, correct?
Yeah, we can
Okay.
do
Yeah, we're
that.
going along with your recommendation
Yeah.
on those
Mhm.
3 things, and the 4th one was the rendering, which we did want, we did want to review the rendering.
Yeah, it'll be memorialized in the decision itself, and if you don't like the way it was written, if you say, Rob, you're out of your mind, this is terrible, have every right to do that.
do we need a motion for that? Have you drafted a decision?
No, I haven't just,
No,
No.
do
oh, no, you don't need to make a
Okay.
motion. If you guys are comfortable with it.
Yeah, if we're comfortable.
We're
with it.
comfortable.
We'd want to continue it though, but what's the decision deadline on
The
this?
decision deadline is July 31st. So I would just recommend a continuation to July 17th, and if you're okay with that, and then just extend the deadline just in case to the end of August.
Yeah, safe.
All right, so it'll be July 17th for the continuation, and the deadline decision will be, have the extension to August 31st.
So August 31st.
Yep. Does that work?
All right, can I have a motion for
Yeah,
that?
just-
Okay, second, please. Oh, good. Second, so the motion is been made, seconded. We'll have a vote.
Matty, I.
Bill, I,
Bill, aye.
Steve, I.
Okay, passes for, 4-0.
gentlemen, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Very much. Rob, what else we have on our agenda besides the meeting minutes? Anything?
I think it's just the meeting minutes, right?
All right, so has everybody had a chance to look at the meeting minutes? Good night, guys. Thank you.
Thank you.
I think he's-
I didn't see. Does anybody have any issues with the meeting minutes from, I'm hearing no? Okay,
As I was in attendance as a spectator, townsperson, it's very accurate for what was discussed throughout the night. As I stayed till the end.
yeah, technical issue. Can you vote on the meeting minutes if he wasn't part of the board? That's,
I would probably not do that if it was just,
okay.
I mean, you
You
could, but if.
I was just making,
If there's
Yeah,
If there's any
Public,
comment,
no.
we would take any comment that you had, evaluate,
right,
but
but I,
we'll hold up on that because of, not being on the board at the time. So at this point, I would entertain a motion to approve the meeting minutes from May 22nd, 2025.
That's what
I'll second.
Okay, so made and seconded and call for the vote.
Steve, I.
Bill, I,
Bill,
and Marty will abstain. Yeah. Okay, then I think we're set there. And is there any other business on the agenda?
no, I think that's it. I guess just one item to note. I think it'll be announced at the select board meeting as well, but we still have the vacancy for the associate member for planning. We have 2 vacancies for associate member for ZBA. And I think there's also a vacancy on conservation, although I know that every one of them, I think, has been advertised at least once, so,
Right.
yeah. So just, to note,
One last question I have. So we have a abbreviated July, which we talked about, so we get that one meeting in July.
Yep.
What is our meeting schedule in August? Do you have that now?
yeah,
We usually do a shorter. Do we have that established at this point?
meaning what's the date on I don't
Is there
have,
one or two?
there's one.
There's one.
Yep, there's one.
And we have a date on that at this point, or is it still up in the
It
air?
would be August 14th.
The 14th. Okay.
Yep.
And is, are you anticipating certain things on the 14th or?
I don't know yet.
Okay,
I guess it depends how things go on July 17th. Obviously, June 26th, is
yeah,
the big one.
maybe then.
So I don't know what's going to happen
Okay,
as far as continuations with that one.
okay. We'll keep
Yeah.
that as TBD.
I will tell you that been trying to really segment stuff to make it easier for
Okay.
everybody. So,
All right, and we appreciate that, but we don't want to go down into the details.
no,
Oh.
absolutely.
All right, then I'll take a motion to end the meeting tonight.
so moved.
And I have a second, please.
second,
All right, okay, and we'll start the vote on this side.
Steve, I.
Bill, aye?
Bill, I.
Matty, I.
And that's a 4-0, and we're wrapped time.
All right, excellent.
We can kill the,
Yeah.
needs a